The covers of your low content books are the most important element to their success or not. If you have a good cover, you will be so much more likely to make sales. And if you make your covers yourself, one of the best tips I can give you is to be inspired by other covers. One way I like to be inspired by other covers is to take an example of a cover that I like or that has elements that I like, and to use that as inspiration for creating my own cover, even if it's just for an exercise. So today I chose this cover that I found. It is really simple, which is why I think it would be a pretty easy one to use as inspiration, but it's also very effective. I think it clearly communicates the vibe of the book and who the target audience is, and it's simple, but it's pretty cute, not too complicated. So I'm going to be using this as my inspiration today, and I'm going to try to create a cover that takes elements of this cover and applies them to a completely different book. So here I am in Canva, and I've created a new design. I've gone ahead and created a design with dimensions of 6 by 9 inches because I use that size a lot, and I intentionally wanted to make a size that was different from my inspiration cover. So this, I've dropped in a screenshot of it. Obviously it's a square, but I want to not copy that too much, and so I'm making a rectangular cover of 6 by 9 inches. But I've gone ahead and left it here so I can refer to it throughout my process and continue to be inspired by it. So the first thing that you've hopefully already done by this point is to choose what kind of book you want to make, and already have chosen the title and the target audience and everything like that. Since that's not really the focus of this video, I'm just going to choose something that I haven't done keyword research on, but I was kind of inspired by this like bubble, what do you call it, speech bubble? I think this speech bubble is really cute, and it makes me think of like a quote book. So I think I'm going to turn this into a quote book for like people to write down the funny quotes that like their kids say or something like that. So going off of that as my inspiration, the first feature of this cover that I want to duplicate, and you can see a little better if I zoom in, is the very subtle stripes in the background. So if you look closely, you can see that there is a pink background, but there's like irregular stripes of like a slightly lighter shade of pink back there, and I think that really helps to give the background a good sense of depth and make it a lot less flat looking, and I love that. So that's the first thing I'm going to incorporate in my new design when I create the background color. For mine, instead of doing pink, I think I'm going to do like a nice teal color, maybe something a little more blue like that. I think that's nice. And then I'm going to make lighter colored stripes on it, and I like how these are not straight up and down stripes, they're a little irregular. So I think the best way for me to do that would be to create my own stripes using shapes. I'm going to use this trapezoid shape to create those stripes that I really like. Let's go with that for now. So that's going to be our background, and then since I mentioned before I really like this speech bubble as an element for my quote book idea, let's add that next. For the title of this book, I'd like to come up with a kind of clever title for the main title, and then use my subtitle to be a descriptor of what the book is. I think sometimes that just looks a little bit more professional. It depends on the keyword and the niche you're in, but since this video again isn't necessarily about keywords, I think it will be fun to have a unique title. So I'm going to call the title "What Did You Say?" And I'll give it a subtitle of a funny quote book, or whatever the keyword that I'd want to use. That would be the subtitle. Again, this is just an example. So far this is what I have. The background, the main graphic, which is this text, this speech bubble, and the title. What did you say? A funny quote book. Going back to my inspiration cover, I like that they have these really simple doodles along the edges. For me, it really communicates the vibe and the target audience of this book, which is maybe younger audiences or just kind of a more playful vibe. So I'm gonna do something similar and get some doodles to put around the edges. So here I have what I'm going to call my first version of this cover. I almost always do multiple versions of a cover by making slight adjustments each time. And usually for me that means by subtracting. So what I like to do is make a copy of this first cover so I can remember what it looks like. And I have a tendency to add too many elements that aren't really necessary, and this is what I mean by subtracting. I'm going to erase some of these things. Okay, so I've quickly deleted some of the elements. I've made the speech bubble bigger to make it more of a central focus and a little bit more simplified. And I also decided to add an author name. I don't always do this, but I do think it can make your book covers look a little bit more professional because most traditionally published books have an author name on the cover. So it depends, but I decided to test it out for this cover. So now let's compare it and see what it looks like with the previous cover. When I make new iterations of covers and tweak small things, I like to just compare to what I did before to see if I'm liking the direction I'm going in, if I'm actually improving it or not. So that's why I like to keep copies of the previous covers and just duplicate. But comparing these side by side, I think I definitely like this second one better. It's a little bit more simple, a little bit more to the point, and the speech bubble that says the title, what did you say, is definitely the central focus. And I think I like having the author name now too. So if I was publishing this book for real, which I'm probably not going to, but if I was, I might do several more iterations of the cover by duplicating this and then just tweaking it a little bit each time and comparing to see which one I like the best. But for now, I think I'm pretty happy with this second cover. Took me about 30 minutes to make, and if we look back to our inspiration cover, you can see how I was inspired by it. Now, I want to remind all of you that you definitely shouldn't copy covers. That can just get you into all sorts of trouble and it will not get you more sales. So don't copy exactly, use your own ideas, but I hope that this has given you a starting point to see how you can use covers that you see online to create your own by being inspired by them. Even if you just do it as an exercise, it's something you can do that will improve your book designing skills and give you ideas for future book covers that you create. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of the way I was inspired by this book cover and what I created. Do you think I did a good job, or what ways do you think I could improve? Good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.